Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome, one and all, welcome to A Voice from the Ever-Change meditation program. And I've stopped numbering the episodes. This is just the next episode. So thank you for joining me. And today I'm going to change up the meditation just a little bit. I'm going to actually start externally in the external world with the sounds of the present moment. And we'll start externally and come internally. So kind of a reverse of what I have been doing here. If you've been joining me previously, I typically go through the breath, the body, the sounds. Today we'll go the sounds, body, and breath. Now this can be a really great practice for those of us who are holding a lot of tension, a lot of stress or anxiety in the body or in the heart, because this allows our awareness to ground into the present moment through something that's not in the body or in the heart. So grounding in the sounds and the silence of the present moment. And once we come into the present moment through that portal, the sounds, the silence, then we embrace the sensations of the body. So we're in the present moment already when we might encounter any sort of tension or stress or anxiety or emotion like that. So that kind of gives us a head start, if you will, of coming into the present moment in that way. So then we'll rest in the silence of the present moment just for a few moments. And then I'll offer up a poem that I've composed. This is from my book, A Voice from the Ever-Change. And then shortly after the poem, I'll be offering a commentary on the poem that is also composed and written out from the book. After that, we'll just rest for a few breaths, maybe 4 or 5 breaths. I'll ring the bell. And then I'll offer a Dharma talk, or just a little bit of wisdom, perhaps, or entertainment, perhaps, on how I can, or how we can bring what's written in the poem, what's written in the commentary, to bear on the present moment experience of the world, the coronavirus, the current crisis of the global situation. And that's really why I'm doing this series, is to try to help. This is my very small contribution to try to raise the energy, try to raise the light into the current global crisis. So I hope you all find this at least entertaining, if not helpful and beneficial in some way. So I think that's all I need to say for the introduction here. I'll ring the bell, I'll guide us into silence, and we're off. So enjoy. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy. So allowing the body, mind, and heart to rest. Just coming into this present moment experience. And while resting here in this present moment, I'll ring the bell. Rest your thinking mind on the sound of the bell. Allow the fade of the bell to guide your awareness into silence. And while resting in that silent space of the present moment, you might also notice the sounds of the present moment. It might seem as if the sounds are arising out of the silence and returning back to the silence. You might notice the sound of the bird song or the sound of geckos. There might be a neighbor's television or music playing, perhaps a conversation off in the distance. And while resting here in this present moment, I'll ring the bell again. Rest your mind on the sound of the bell. Allow the decay of the bell to guide your awareness into silence. And while resting in the silence of the present moment, including in your awareness the experience of sounds, not focusing on any one sound in particular, but noticing the entire canopy of sound and silence. The soundtrack of the present moment. And while resting in this silence and sound of the present moment, bringing attention to sensations arising from the feet, perhaps noticing the feet against a mat or floor. There might be sensations of clothing against the legs. Noticing the weight of the body against the cushion, chair, mat, or floor. You might also notice sensations of clothing against the back. There might be sensations of hands resting against the body or touching each other. Noticing the arms resting against the body. Sensations of clothing against the shoulders. There might also be sensations arising from the back of the neck and the sides of the neck. Sensations arising from the back of the head and the ears. Allowing awareness to expand into the cheeks of the face, noticing any sensations arising from the face, including the lips and the nose, the eyes and the forehead. Noticing any sensations arising from the top of the head. And so we'll rest right there, just for a few moments, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the sounds, the silence, and sensations arising throughout the body, from the bottoms of the feet to the top of the head. And just rest, breathing in and breathing out. And if at any time during the meditation you become distracted by your thoughts, simply labeling those thoughts with the word thinking will help the thoughts to go. And you can then gently return back to the present moment, silence and sound, sensations arising throughout the body, and just rest. And now, while resting in this present moment experience, noticing the present moment sounds, the silence, sensations arising throughout the body, bringing attention to the breath as it enters the nose and leaves the nose. There might be a cool or a dry sensation arising in the nostrils. Allowing awareness to include the back of the throat, perhaps noticing the temperature changing from cooler to warmer on the inhalation and exhalation, both in the nostrils and the back of the throat, as you breathe in and breathe out. Allowing awareness to expand to include the rib cage, expanding and contracting with each breath. There might be sensations of clothing moving to adjust with the rising and falling of the shoulders, chest, and abdomen as you inhale and exhale. Noticing the back moving out as you breathe in as you breathe out. Perhaps noticing the body straightening up slightly on the in-breath and leaning forward slightly on the out-breath. And so we'll rest right there just for a few moments, maintaining open, spacious awareness on the silence and sound, sensations arising throughout the body, from the bottoms of the feet to the top of the head, and sensations arising throughout the breathing process. Sensations of breath and body are always present moment experiences. The sounds are also always present moment. And just rest, breathing in and breathing out. The poem. Our view of life is not life. Our perspective of the truth is not truth. Each time we recognize this, we make space for others to share their life, and we will hear them, to share their view, and we may accept them. Opening in this way allows others to become us, them to become we. This might be the greatest gift we ever give. The commentary. As I look out onto the expansive, deep blue of the ocean and marvel at the vastness of it all, the thought which generally comes to my mind is, what an amazing world we live in. When one hikes the Annapurna Trail in the Himalayas to see the breathtaking sunrise shimmering over the ice-capped mountains, it is easy to lose oneself in the reveling of the beauty inherent in our world. When my friend phones me in a desperate panic over the shooting which has just happened at a nearby shopping mall, it is just as easy for the mind to wonder if the world is quickly falling into a hellish state of senseless violence. When turning on the news to see yet another violent protest breaking out in an effort to remove yet another corrupt politician, thoughts of despair and outrage tend to easily emerge. The world as presented by nature is not beautiful or breathtaking, nor is it violent or hellish. Our planet is neither a bland flatland of plain boredom. These are all different views of the world as experienced through the perception of the human nervous system. Most people oscillate between these extremes on a daily or even hourly basis. The important point here is to remember that the quality of the experience is in the nervous system which experiences, and not in the experience itself. We all see the world from a particular vantage point. That vantage point is tinted, colored, shaded, influenced, changed, and or altered by our preferences, prejudices, likes, dislikes, opinions, and judgments. Our view, or vantage point, of life is created by a composite of influences, including but not limited to our culture, parental and social upbringing, education, biological drives, entertainment, and social media. We tend to feel attracted to people, places, and situations which comfortably affirm that our view is the correct and accurate view of the present moment. And we feel irritated, angered, or somehow averse to people and situations which challenge our view of the present moment. Each vantage point, each view, is partial and limited. Each perspective is a slice of how reality truly presents itself. This is an important point because so often we believe that our particular perspective is the one and only correct way to experience life. Cling to our views in such a dogmatic fashion, we inevitably feel varying degrees of stress, tension, anger, frustration, or even rage. With a healthy, consistent meditation practice, we begin to separate the experience of the world from our thoughts about that experience. Both still arise, of course, but they don't arise together any longer. We may visit a museum, and as we look at a painting, we see our judgments about the painting as being different experiences from the painting itself. We may then witness the painting as it exists, free from our preferences and prejudices. We may begin to tease apart our opinions about what we experience from the experience itself. Our preferences and prejudices no longer seem to be sewn into the very fabric of our experience. They now arise separate from, yet in conjunction with, life as it unfolds. That can be really interesting because it adds another dimension or color to our experience, another hue to our view, so to speak. These opinions, preferences, and prejudices are still there, but we do not have to take them seriously any longer. They become just another aspect of the experience, rather than the judge, jury, and executioner of each and every encounter we have with life. This letting go or release of our likes, dislikes, beliefs, opinions, and preferences becomes more and more frequent, this way of seeing becomes the new normal view of our world. When this view settles in and becomes more solidified into one's way of seeing, we begin to notice how completely attached to our old, outdated worldview we once were. We may notice how this attachment brought about much suffering to ourselves and perhaps to those around us. This is the birth of self-compassion. As we grow in consciousness, we may actually become more aware of how our past attachments have caused ourselves and others to suffer. Similarly, as a musician grows in skill and technique, that musician will hear the out-of-tune notes they play more and more easily. At first, the musician may feel as if they are losing the ability to play, but they are just becoming more sensitive to being out of tune. So as it is with meditation. Self-compassion and self-forgiveness will be necessary tools to carry with you on this path as we notice how out of tune we are with life and with our tuning process as it begins and unfolds. At the same time, we may observe how others, particularly other people with no training in meditation, are completely identified with their own particular view and perspective. We clearly know from our own personal experience how much suffering is inherently involved in that type of attachment. This naturally gives rise to compassion for others. In fact, the idea of other begins to lose its grip, and we begin to awaken to a family of we, rather than consciously back into the old, outdated, tribal divisions of I versus them. So I hope you found the guided meditation, the poem, and the commentary easy to follow. Just got a comment that said I was easy to follow, so that's nice. Thank you for that comment. I hope you found it beneficial and peaceful, and if not beneficial and peaceful, at least entertaining in some way. So this portion of the episode, I generally just start to talk. This is all improvised, trying to really bring the poem and the commentary that I just read to the experience of life in the current world situation, this coronavirus situation. So the topic here is really about seeing our experience, or experiencing our life rather, without the burdens of our preferences and prejudices. That's the practice of equanimity. Very, very challenging, particularly in this climate. Of course, we all prefer the world to be healthy right now, but the world isn't. We'd all prefer that we have a vaccine for the COVID-19, but we don't. And so how do we enter the experience of life every day free from our preferences? Well, the idea here is not to repress our preferences or prejudices. It's not to shun them, not to villainify them, but to acknowledge that is there, but then to move forward, not acting on those preferences and prejudices, but to move forward free from that, to embrace the present moment. When we're caught in the experience of life through our preferences and prejudices, we'll get caught in the emotional reactivity that's inherent in that. So if I'm experiencing life and I'm constantly have this dialogue in my head, why can't they come up with a virus? Why does the world have to be sick? Why do I have to be in quarantine? Why can't I be close to my friends? Why can't I visit? Caught in that dialogue, then that's an enormous energy drain in our head. We don't need that. That's taking us away from the present moment experience. Now, those thoughts might indeed be about the present moment, but thoughts about the present moment aren't the present moment. Just in the same way that thoughts about water can't quench your thirst, so as it is with any thoughts about the present moment. They are create a division, separation between ourself and the experience of life. So when we find that we're caught in preferring preference or prejudice, likes and dislikes, opinions, we're holding on to a view of how we think reality should be rather than experiencing reality itself. Then we get caught up in this fight, this tension, this aggravation, this frustration about it should be this way, it should be that way. Rather than, okay, we don't necessarily need to love the present moment, although that's great if we can, but at least accepting what's arising. Because then we see things a lot more accurately. without the lenses, without the filters of our preferences and prejudices, we see the world, as the Buddha said, we see the suchness of reality. We can taste the suchness of life when we drop the preferences and prejudices and step into reality as it's being presented. And you can feel when you're doing this. You can feel when you're preferring, or when you're stuck in your preferences and prejudices, your likes and dislikes, when you're clinging to a belief system that's opposing another belief system. You can feel that. There's a tension in the body. You might feel it in the abdomen. That's where I get it, in the abdomen, or in the shoulders, or behind the jaw. There's a visceral experience when we're holding on to a point of view that's opposing another point of view, and all points of view oppose another point of view, eventually. So when we feel that, take a breath. Listen to the sounds. Listen to the silence of the present moment if there are no sounds. Feel the clothing on your skin. Feel your feet against the ground. Feel the breath entering and leaving your body. Bringing yourself back to the present moment. And then, what is really being presented here? What are the facts? As they said in the Dragnet movie, I love this. Just the facts, ma'am. When I'm practicing equanimity, I have that phrase in my head. I hear Dan Aykroyd in my head. Just the facts, ma'am. And so when I'm, scrolling through Facebook, and there are so many opinions about all kinds of things, politics and conspiracy theories, and how we should handle this and that, and who's doing what right and who's doing what wrong. Then my mind, of course, naturally, preferences and prejudices arise. And then I stop. I come back to the present moment. I feel the breath, feel the clothing on my skin, hearing the sounds. And I say to myself, just the facts. What is exactly the reality of the present moment? What is being presented here right now? When we can step into that, we unhook the emotional reactivity. We untie the anxiety that's tied up in our view of how we think reality should be unfolding. We can let all of that go. Just the facts. Now, I've gotten some comments that when I talk about things like this, sometimes I make it sound easy. I know these practices aren't easy. Arguably, it's some of the more difficult things to do. We've been raised and grown up with our cultural conditioning, with our view of the world. And so here I'm asking us to step out of that. That probably won't happen after a 35-minute video on Facebook or YouTube or my website, wherever you're catching this. These practices take practice. And so that's why there are meditations designed to specifically cultivate the experience of present moment awareness, like the one I gave at the beginning here of this episode. Also, meditations designed to cultivate the experience of equanimity. I have, I think, 7 or 8 that are available on my website and on YouTube. Those are all for free. I'm not here trying to sell anything. I really, again, I'm trying to really help the situation. So I think that's all I want to say today. Thank you for joining me for another episode of A Voice from the Ever-Change. And I will be back again tomorrow at this same time, which is 1 p.m. in Thailand, 11 p.m. the day before in the west coast of California, or west coast of the United States of America, rather. So thank you. I will see you all then. I'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I believe I am talking a little bit more about equanimity and reading another poem, guiding a meditation, and offering a commentary, Dharma talk. Thanks again. Much love, much light. Please, please, please practice your social distancing. Stay home if you can. We're still in the middle of this. We can't afford to be complacent. Much love, much light. Thank you.